Hey, what is going on, everyone? It's me, Mr. Mario, and in this video here, we're going to be talking about something a little bit interesting and pretty cool, at least in my opinion. Now, I've been talking about Xbox Live 1.0 revivals and reboots, mainly on my podcast Mod Chat, for several years now at this point. We've seen several teases of them, several of them come up, kind of disappear, or merge, or dissipate, or just kind of come about in different ways, but it seems like in recent times there has been one that has really stayed the course, and we've seen some really crazy awesome progress with it, being Insignia. Now, for anybody who does not know, the original Xbox Live, and by that I mean Xbox Live that works on a back there original Xbox, or just Xbox Live that you can play original Xbox games on, has been deprecated. Which means for about 10 years at this point, you have not been able to play original Xbox games on Xbox Live. Yes, there is still LAN play. Yes, there is LAN tunneling through services such as XBConnect and XLink Kai, but that is using the LAN capabilities on a game and essentially tricking your system into connecting onto the internet itself, but still utilizing LAN play on there. But you're never able to access actual Xbox Live on that, meaning that for games such as Halo 2, you cannot go into the Xbox Live option and just go into matchmaking and start playing. That's been dead for quite a while. However, Insignia is the biggest project that we've seen from this that has also made the most progress. Now, I'm not sure how much of a surprise this will be to some people, but I don't really use my influencer powers like an influencer, I guess. There's many times I feel like I might be able to get access into something or get something early, but I simply just don't do it. I kind of like to step back and be a consumer in that way. So imagine my surprise when I really wasn't making any noise or anything, but I was invited onto the Xbox Live Insignia project to be a tester, which I gladly accepted. Now, it did take me a little bit to get onboarded on there just because I was busy. There was a few things that were going on, but I was able to get that Xbox connected onto Insignia, and from there was a big test that was being done in private. Now, this was a big test simply because of not only the amount of testers that were getting on and playing, but also just everyone not only doing it at once, but also being spread right all across the world. So it was going to be kind of spreading the server and service a little bit thin. But that was the whole point of it as well too. They were looking to gather a bunch of data, see what was working, what was broken, and analyze it further from there to further improve the system. Hence why this was an alpha test. Now, my experiences on it overall, after I got my console set up and I was able to get connected, I actually could not believe like this was working. Like, I was able to get into Xbox games. I was able to get into the Xbox Live sections of them. I was able to sign in. I was able to create matches, join matches if there were anything going on. And I think maybe the biggest thing for me was account creation. You see, I've actually never played the original Xbox Live on an original Xbox. I did use it on the Xbox 360, but I've never taken an original Xbox onto Xbox Live. And I got to do that when I ended up creating my account. And there was just something at one point when doing the account creation, probably about halfway through, I just kind of stopped and I had this dumb smile on my face. And it was very much a thing of like, oh my God, I'm not supposed to be here. And I think there's most of the population never thought they would see this screen again, but I'm seeing it right here. This is incredible. And then I was able to go through, make my account, and we were able to have a fun time after that. When it came to actually playing the games and such, for the most part, it seemed to work pretty well. Now, there were times where it was quite laggy, and I thought it might have just been me, even though my connection's pretty good, but there were just times we would get in game, and like Unreal Tournament was one of them, for example, where it was just super laggy. So I was kind of just having to shoot in general directions. Not only I've never really played that game, so I was not good at it at all, but then you had all the lag on top of it, and it was just it was a lot going on. I was surprised that I managed to get a few kills. There's also other games such as Dead or Alive where it seemed that it seemed to match pretty well with what I've experienced in other games, mainly being I've played Dead or Alive 4 online before, and with that it is highly dependent on the connection of the two fighters. So if the connections work pretty well with each other, you're going to have a pretty smooth experience. But if there is some kind of mismatch, some kind of issue, the game ends up slowing down to kind of compensate for everything. So depending on who is going to be fighting who at any given time, you might have an excellent fight, or you might have a really laggy, awful fight that is just kind of chopping and everything there. Just not the best experience, but I would say that was more with the game itself and how it was built and not so much the platform. So aside from some lag, the only other bad thing I can really think of that happened was, funny enough, with Crimson Skies back there. Unfortunately, we did end up breaking that game. You see, when we had tried to play it with a title update on there, it just seemed that we couldn't get matches working. Like, we would all be able to get connected, we would be able to load in game, and then after an extended loading screen, all of a sudden the game would end like that, and somebody would have won with like negative 6,563 kills, something like that. So there are going to be issues that are going to come up like that. I do know there was some disappointment expressed behind that, but I actually kind of tried to be glass half full on there, and I said, actually, this is good that this broke. Not because like, oh, it's broken, it's never going to work. It was more that at this point, there is a realistic testing scenario that has come about here, and we were able to see something breaking, and hopefully the team has a whole lot of detail and just, you know, information on their side that they're able to look at this and determine what the issue could be, what they could do to fix it, and all that fun stuff on there. Now, those are just my own experiences with it here, but I wanted to do something a little different for this video. You see, I could think of a few questions to ask, but I actually ended up posing it to my community. I did it in two places, on Twitter and on Discord, and I just asked, hey, I got to be a private tester on Insignia. Are there any questions that you all have? And if you ask questions that I feel like I can pass over to the team, I will do my best to get them answered in a video. So that's why here I'm going to be answering your questions. That is to say that, you know, asking questions on here has already been closed up in that regard. So just to respect the team, there is some stuff I've seen that I can answer, some stuff I do want to keep private in that regard. However, there were several excellent questions that came through on both platforms, and I ended up posing these questions over to Luke Usher, who was gracious enough to take some time out to answer them in incredible detail to me. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get some of these answered. So first of all, people are probably going to be asking, where's Halo 2? Can I play Halo 2? What games are going to be supported? And I'm here to say, unfortunately, Halo 2 is not going to be supported on launch. However, we do have a list of games available that will be available at launch, which will be actually pretty similar to the original official Xbox Live launch. They are as follows: Counter-Strike, Crimson Skies, and the Xbox Live Starter Kit demo for it, Dead or Alive Ultimate, MechAssault, including the Xbox Live Starter Kit demo yet again, Midtown Madness 3, the MotoGP online demo, that is from an Xbox Live Starter Kit as well, Phantasy Star Online Episode 1 and 2, Star Wars Jedi Academy, Street Fighter Anniversary Collection, Unreal Championship, Whacked, and the Xbox Live Starter Kit demo for it, the Xbox Live Arcade, and 13. So there's more games that are being tested and supported and being worked on every single day. Seriously, follow their Twitter account. There is a whole lot of really awesome progress on this. However, when it comes to games that you'll be able to play on the service day one, that's going to be the list. Now, to get online, some people have also asked what hardware and modifications will be needed on here. So if you're going to be using a console, this is not going to be working on the Xbox 360 or Xbox One. This is going to be for the original Xbox, that chunky little beast back there. Now, when it comes to hard mod, soft mod, and even stock console support, there is support for all of them. However, there are a few things to keep in mind. For example, if you have a soft modded original Xbox, it seems that the Rocky 5 soft mod is what you want to use, because that one does not block Xbox Live, while there are versions of Softmod Installer Deluxe which do block Xbox Live. So of course, we do need that unblocked. When it comes to having a hard modded system, meaning that you're able to run a custom BIOS, it seems to be that Evolution X or Evox M8 Plus would be the way to go on here, because so many other BIOS out there do block Xbox Live. It does look like there will be an application that you can run to, I guess, bypass this block and limitation on there. However, if you're running this, you are going to have to run this every time you boot up your system. So if you want to connect to Insignia, you'd have to turn on your system, you'd have to run this application, and then you'd you'd be able to connect. So at that point, really, if you have a soft modded system on Softmod Installer Deluxe, it's going to be better to just upgrade to Rocky 5. And if you're using a custom BIOS, you might want to just install a Evox M8 Plus BIOS so you don't have to deal with live blocking on something such as X3. Now, if you have a stock system, if you want to keep it stock for whatever reason, I'm not necessarily sure why, but if you want to run a completely stock Xbox, you will still be able to get onto Insignia. Now, there are a few caveats to that, mainly that you are going to need your EEPROM because there's going to be console-specific keys that you'll need to dump from your system. There's a few ways of getting this. First of all, if you're going to do it through software, I suppose you could soft mod the system, dump your EEPROM, make sure you have it backed up to your computer, and then revert your system back to stock. However, there is also going to be another method and exploit that will come out that you'll just need to run this at one point, and it's going to be about the same entry point and entry way of soft modding your system, except you're not soft modding it. You're really just running this exploit to get your EEPROM, and then you'll exit the exploit. That's how it's going to be. So those are the software methods of doing that. However, when it comes to hardware, let's say you don't want to run a software exploit at all, you are still going to need to dump your EEPROM. Now, you can use several different solutions out there, such as PiPROM, where you're able to use a Raspberry Pi to, hook this up in specific places to the Xbox, run some software to dump the EEPROM from the motherboard, or you can use, another solution like this, which shout out and thank you to Xbox 7887 for building one of these for me. This here is an Arduino, a few wires, and a clamp right here, where you would just really take this, clamp it onto the exact chip that you need to, and then you would hook this up to your computer and you would dump your EEPROM at that point. Yes, this is the harder way of doing it if you really want to not put any, exploitable software on your system. I wouldn't necessarily recommend going the hardware route. I do still recommend opening up your Xbox if you have to remove the clock capacitor, but if you are running a stock system, my personal recommendation, just don't. It's easier to just soft mod at that point, because if you're going through software, you are going to have to essentially go through the same steps that you would for a soft mod, or if you can, hard mod your system. Those are my personal recommendations, though. In terms of security, it was asked, how is user account data being secured, and is there anything you've had to implement that end users should be aware of? Now, Luke stated, we are limited by how Xbox Live was designed. We can't add any new security on the Xbox side that didn't already exist. That being said, Xbox Live does decrypt data on the wire. It's not super secure by modern standards, but it is still in use by some financial systems until at least 2023, so it's good enough. Xbox Live doesn't have a password system. Accounts are just a name and a secret key that is stored on the Xbox hard drive and never shown to this user. This key acts as a Kerberos authentication token using the ARC4 HMAC MD5 algorithm. Also used Microsoft Active Directory in the Windows 2000-2003 era. The key is regenerated by Xbox Live whenever you take any major account actions, for example, account recovery, to make sure that Xboxes with stale versions of the accounts can no longer connect. As for our services, we send a welcome email that also serves as a password reset for the website services. This is a website built to modern standards. Passwords are properly hashed and salted, specifically via the Blowfish algorithm. I did talk about account creation before, how it was really cool being able to make my account, so somebody asked, how are Gamertags managed in terms of claiming your desired username? Luke had answered, it works exactly how it worked on the original Xbox. You enter your desired Gamertag on the Xbox Live sign-up form, and then if it's available, you get it. If not, it will auto-generate a few alternative suggestions or give you the option to type another. Many people were asking, when is the public beta for this? And Luke answered, it's not the best answer, but when it's ready is all we can give. There are a lot of aspects we need to finish up before we're at the state of taking on a significant number of members. The Setup Assistant tool is not ready yet. The website is not ready yet. There's no friend system yet, so no game invites, no online status tracking, etc. We need to get this implemented before launching the beta. So, might be disappointing to some, but that is the accurate answer. Maybe not the best answer people want, but the true answer there. Is access to the original Xbox dashboard required? And it was answered, yes, and there's nothing we can do about this. The Microsoft dashboard is the only way to manage Xbox Live accounts on the original Xbox. Nothing else contains the code required to update the account data on the hard drive. Is voice chat supported? Yes, provided you have the communicator headset, voice functions exactly as you would expect it to. Do friends list and messaging features work? I do know that I did touch up on this a little bit in a previous question with the answer there. However, Luke did provide a more fleshed out answer in this case. Not yet, which is why we're not launching the public beta yet. It's worth mentioning that Xbox Live did not have messaging in the same way as modern Xbox Live does. You can attach voice messages to game invites and friend requests in later games, but there's no chat system, no party chat, etc. You can only talk with people who are in the same game session as you. Now, a lot of people have also wondered, since it's been talked about a bit in previous Xbox Live, reverse engineering efforts and re-implementations, people have wondered, will this be open sourced? With many people citing that they would like to host their own servers and such in different parts of the world, such as New Zealand, Australia, the Middle East, etc. And it was answered by Luke saying it will not be open sourced. The main reason for this is to avoid multiple competing networks. Xbox Live is designed to be a central environment, and other networks cannot communicate with each other. You can only play with players registered to the same Xbox Live server as you, and we don't want to risk splitting up an already small player base. As for server location, it really doesn't matter for 99% of the games. The games provide Xbox Live services, authentication, matchmaking, leaderboards, etc. But once you're in a game session, actual gameplay traffic is peer-to-peer between Xboxes and the servers are not involved. What matters most for performance is geographical proximity to other players in the same session and your ping between the Xbox hosting the game and yourself. Of course, there is an exception for games like Phantasy Star Online that will require a persistent server. Now, several people had asked, will this work in XEmu, which is an original Xbox emulator? And this actually surprised me. This is pretty cool to see. Luke ended up telling me, yes, out of the box, this should work. The setup process for an emulator is identical to the setup process of a real Xbox. We heavily utilize emulation during development and testing because it's easier to debug than a physical Xbox console. Now, for the final question here that I had passed on to Luke, it was asked, what is going on with DLC updates and maps? Like, what is going to be the status of distribution for that? And he answered me, we are unable to share any DLC due to legal concerns, but we are investigating potential solutions for handling required game updates, but there is nothing to announce at this time. In the future, we are looking into options as to whether we can allow developers to create their own custom content for games and add them as DLC. So there we go. Those are many of the common questions that were asked, and I felt like there were some really good hard-hitting ones there as well too. That's about all I have to say on Insignia so far. Really, I can't wait until we get to see more people on this. There is still alpha testing ongoing, but I do hope we do see a public beta here in the near future, and I do really hope if you're going to be signing up and using that public beta, like utilizing it, please utilize the service, test it out, really try and do what you can on there, because any testing before this is, out of beta or even out of alpha is going to help the team overall. Anyways, that's about it for this video here. I do want to shout out and thank Luke Usher as well as the rest of the Xbox Live Insignia team. Again, a really awesome group of people over there. I am going to have some links down below in the description of this video where you can check out more on this project, follow it, and even support the team as well too. Anyways, that is about it for this video here. This is Mr. Mario signing off. Thank you all for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, a like would absolutely be appreciated. If you didn't like it, a dislike is fine as well too.